Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I am your host, Ellen Wallace. Today, we got a great issue for you. Actually, 11 books is what we have today for review. I was reading through this one that you see up top here. I was actually reading through issue number 7 of Uncanny X-Men. And then I realized towards the end, I'm like, I feel like I'm in the middle of the story. And then sure enough, in the top right corner, you can see here 2 out of 4 for Raid on Graymalkin. So I was like, oh, I gotta read part 1, which was from X-Men number 8, which I had in the stack and I could have sworn I had it in order. And it's possible both of these came out on the same week. Actually, I could check that real quick. Let's see. Yeah, so 8 came out December 4th, and this one came out December 11th. So I guess I just had my pile mixed up a little bit because I definitely read number 2 first, and then I noticed that, and I was like, all right, well, let's read number 1. And it's like, since I read both of those, let's just go ahead and add them in. So that is where we're at with all that. But any which way, we're still going to talk through our reviews, through our books. We're going to do 11 for this go around, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it. And so again, 11 on the board. You guys know the deal already. Full spoilers on for all these books. So if you do not want spoilers, this is not going to be the podcast for you. I can't be any more transparent than that. I don't really know how to go ahead and review comic books without doing that. So just an FYI. But we'll talk about the story itself. I'll try to catch you up on where things are. My recommendation on whether or not you should catch up on this book or pick up this particular one. And, whether, I'm liking it or not and all that jazz. And then we'll finally, for the YouTube folks, you can see the art as well. So I'll kind of flip through some of those pages too. Please keep in mind, I got a little bit of a cold that I'm fighting through. I was having a sore throat yesterday when I was recording some of the wrestling stuff. And then now on the comic book side, I can feel like the sniffles coming through. So if you hear me sniffling throughout, that's what that is. And I apologize if that's extraordinarily distracting and annoying, but at least I'm being transparent about it, right? So that is that. The books here. Let's start in this order. You can see it on the screen, but I will sound it off for all the audio folks. We're going to do X-Men number 8, the Uncanny X-Men number 7, Scarlet Witch number 1. This is the reboot that started in 2024. Then we have Batman the Brave and the Bold number 11. Then Batman 154. Outsiders number 9. This is a giant size X-Men number 1. Free Planet number 2. Miles Morales Spider-Man number 17. Phoenix number 6. And then we'll wrap it all up with book number 11. That is Batman One Bad Day, Catwoman. So those are the 11 books that we'll get through in that order. We'll go ahead and start off with X-Men. I just finished reading this exact issue right before I hit record. So it is fresh on the mind. And I'm reading both of these, right? So I'm reading all through X-Men, reading all through Uncanny, Exceptional, some of the other character-specific books as well. I did mention I elected to drop these books in an effort to just try to consolidate on the number of books that I'm reading, right? So if it's a backlog, except for a couple, I just decided let's just cut it off and then we can always just pick it back up if we need to. But I'm still kind of getting to that point where I want to stay within, call it 10, 12, upwards to like 15 per week. And it's not really getting there, and it's probably not going to get there for a while. So it's like, all right, let's just cut it off where we are now rather than waiting for things naturally to kind of wrap up. So that is the decision there. But for this book, again, I read the Uncanny X-Men number 7. I was like, why do I feel like I'm in the middle of a story? I saw on that top right there that it was a part 2. So I was like, let's go ahead and read this one. If I flip over to our share screen camera, you can see I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. Again, this came out December 4th of last year. I enjoyed this book. I enjoyed it a lot. We have a situation here where team members from the X-Men, which are up in Alaska, and team members from the Uncanny X-Men, which are down in Louisiana, were captured by the Graymalkin prison based up in New York. And so X-Men, headed up by Cyclops, and the Uncanny X-Men, headed up by Rogue, are pissed off about it, and they're going to raid this prison, thus raid on Graymalkin. And we start off where we have Pennant, who's one of the newer X-Men, and Jubilee on the Uncanny side. They're in the mess hall eating, and then sure enough, they see Beast there. And Beast, from the X-Men side, they all kind of link up, have a quick conversation. The Warden then comes down. The Warden basically says, Beast, you're being sold off for committing some whatever crimes. You're going to be prosecuted, found guilty, and likely executed. Pretty brutal. And then they're like, Jubilee, you're just going to stay here. And then Pennant, which is, I think her actual name is Calico. You come from a very rich family. Your family found out that you were locked up here. They decided to pay us off a whole bunch of money. All you have to do is sign a sworn affidavit that you're not a mutant, and then you are free to go. And Pennant, at first, seems like she may consider it, but only for a split second is like, if I'm a mutant, so be it, and I'm not going to leave or sign any of that stuff. So she's very defiant. Warren doesn't like that. Guards don't like that. So they go to strike her, and Beast jumps in the way. And he gets like a beating of his lifetime, basically, right in front of everyone else. And Warren's like, okay, fine. If you want to play hardball, well, that's fine. We'll leave you in here. And then Beast, we're only going to still send you over, but, if we get a little less, a couple less pennies on the dollar because we send you as damaged goods, then so be it. As that takes place, Cyclops and the whole gang, they arrive at the prison and they start raiding the place. So they infiltrate as only that they can, very loud, and they're trying to find Beast so they can get him out. As they're fighting through, they then run into the Uncanny X-Men, who are there as well. And that is basically the cliffhanger that we're left off there. So this book, after reading the second part going into the first part, puts me into a weird and tricky situation of like, how do I review it a little bit more organically? But I mean, hey, that's like kind of comics, right? This is the first time that that's happened in this kind of reviewing setting, but it'll happen all the time, I think, for folks of like reading stuff out of order. And there are plenty of stories that are intentionally built to be non-linear in the first place. So I don't think it was that big of a deal, but it explained a whole bunch that was happening in part two. That's for damn sure. So that was helpful. Some of the big pieces being there that, why were these two sides feuding in the first place? I didn't realize that they kind of met up together. I didn't realize that the Uncanny folks were taken to the Graymalkin prison along with Beast. Like, I had an inkling that the Uncanny folks were, because that's who they're feuding with in the first place, but Beast being there as well didn't make any sense to me. So all that was solved and made sense, but other than that, it was a good, serviceable book. You get the X-Men perspective here from the folks up in Alaska, and then of course the Uncanny side, you're going to get the Louisiana side. So let's go ahead and show off the art real quick before we get to the Uncanny side of things. So again, for folks that are on audio, I have YouTube here, Saturday Morning Comic Review, on YouTube if you want to see the visuals for this book as well. And overall, I think it's kind of standard X-Men Marvel artwork, so nothing crazy. What I didn't like, I don't like the design of Beast in this one, and very rarely am I one to be negative or complaining about any sort of drawing of a character, because if you've listened to the very, very first episode, and I recommend that you do, you just get my perspective on what it means to actually be a critic. Like, I can't draw, I can't write, I can't do any of this stuff. I'm truly just a fan putting this out here as like a passion project, right? But when I'm seeing the stuff, I'm like, I can't even draw a tenth of as good as the drawings that I see here. But for me, Beast was like actually an issue in here. Is there... like, how he was drawn here was like kind of weird and odd. How he's drawn here, I just don't like it. I don't know what to say. There's another one here where the guns are drawn on him. It just looks kind of odd. The hair and everything makes sense. The blue is the right shade, but there's something off about the face, and I can't quite articulate what it is. But it's something of note, because usually for the art, I'm like, it was really good. And here, maybe not so much. But the other scenes, for the most part, I didn't have any issues or concerns with. So, it's a nice little serviceable book. Again, obviously, it came out a while ago. Here's basically our cliffhanger here. We have Cyclops shooting off his, beams, and then Rogue and Wolverine, Gambit all show up, ready to go as well. So, there's already current stuff going on between the two. If I had to recommend, I'm liking X-Men more than I'm liking Uncanny, but I did stop Uncanny. I did stop Exceptional. I kept regular X-Men. If I said that I dropped that. I know I did keep regular X-Men, so that'll continue into the future. And a lot of these books are going to continue, maybe have like 6 to 8 of them more throughout, this whole reviews week over week as I get through them in the Omegas. But yeah, that's X-Men number 8. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. Next up here we have is Uncanny Avengers number 7. So we'll just go right into the continuation. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. I do think that this was a drop-off. Even though I read it in the wrong order, I still kind of feel that way. It just felt like you get the perspective of Uncanny, but it doesn't really make sense why these two are feuding. They're, in the end, trying to help out each other's mutants, but it feels like they're stepping on each other's toes, but for no reason. There's not actually a disagreement over an event, an issue, a concern, a difference in philosophy on how they think that they should be going about these things. So it just seems odd of like, just team up and work together and help free these mutants. So the fact that they have like this hostility towards both sides doesn't quite make any sense to me, but it is what it is. I think Cyclops is basically like, I don't want to lose more people, so let us just handle it. And Rogue is like, no way, these are our people too. Like, we're just going to help out. And to me, it's like the more the merrier, but to them, it's more risk of losing someone if you have more people involved, I guess, is the perspective. But even still, I'm just like, I don't know about all this. But the story here, we'll jump into that. It is a direct continuation. We do get the Uncanny side, and how I just teed it up there is a lot of it, them arguing back and forth. But of course, the Uncanny side decides to go as well. And when they arrive, we get a couple scenes with Pennant, Jubilee, and Beast, but it's mostly Pennant or Calico. She leaves at first because she's like being brought into a war. She's a child, kind of new to all this. And then she, comes to grips internally like, hey, I am a mutant, like I said before, being defiant, not getting sold back to her family and rejecting the fact that she's a mutant. And then she turns around and we kind of get to see her first mutant powers in the first place, where she has her horse, and she's basically like this war horse, Apollo, like god of the sun type of like warrior, is her mutant abilities, and then like charges back into the raid. So with that, you do have both sides of the Uncanny and the X-Men not fighting each other, but fighting multiple guards, but also kind of like being standoffish as well. And when they are standoffish, they look off into the distance and they see a vault. That vault there has a big X on it, and it looks like a modified version of Cerebro, right? Something that's potentially keeping an Omega level threat or a high level threat internally. And they're interested, and then they both kind of say like, is that Xavier in there? We don't get an actual chance or opportunity to see, but it could be hinting at that. It could be Xavier, so that'd be kind of cool to see if that all comes to fruition. So just looking back at my notes here, trying to see if there's any other major detail that I missed there, if that was kind of the ending. Let's see. Yeah, and that's just the cliffhanger there. And the last piece was, oh yeah, that's right. They have other mutants that are captured that they're starting to work and do some experiments on. And so it looks like now they're going to have to face off of other like minor mutants that are typically on the evil side, like Blob, for example. So the fight is still kind of on as they go into part number 3. But this was part 2. Again, X-Men or Uncanny X-Men number 7. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. Let's show off some of the artwork real quick. Basically the exact same artwork that you see on the the regular X-Men side. Although I do think it's a different team. Let's double check that real quick. Yeah, so this one is Mayer, and this one is Marquez. So it is different folks here. But it looks the same, or very similar to how Ellis was drawn. I wonder if Beast looks different in this one. Let's see if they have a good shot of Beast in here that I can do a comparison. But I actually don't remember Beast being in this one like at all. Most of it's kind of through the thoughts and perspective of Rogue. Oh, you can see here this book was actually damaged a little bit. I think it was directly from the printer. But thank goodness it's on this page, which has nothing to do with the story or any of the art, and it only affected that. So Beast here, yeah, Beast looks pretty good here. So it is a difference. Uh-oh. Maybe I don't like that artist. Oh well. But yeah, so Rogue and Cyclops, right? They're like all standoffish here, and it's like, well, why would that be? But here we have some of the other mutants, and they're already starting to do their experiments. So that's going to be the next book, is this face off with Uncanny and the regular X-Men facing off against each other. But I want to see, where did they have the Volt in here as well, and show that off, because I think that's an important piece. So bust through the breakthrough there. Nope, that's fighting through all that piece. I didn't think it was this far earlier. No, it couldn't have been. Dun, dun. Ah, here it is. I missed it right here. So this is where they're all kind of looking off, and they can see the Volt here, thinking that it's likely Xavier. So yeah, fun little story. Enjoying it. We'll see where it all heads next. Again, that's Uncanny X-Men number 7. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. And then next up here we have is Scarlet Witch number 1. Again, yet another reboot. I've talked about it for this series as well. So they did a 2023 Scarlet Witch. Then they did a Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. And now they're doing a reboot of Scarlet Witch again in 2024. And then from there, the ongoing, this is all wrapped up, this Scarlet Witch in 2024. From there, they have a Scarlet Witch and Vision that I think is happening now, or like about to wrap up. That's a 3 or a 4-parter, and who knows? Maybe they'll do a 25 after that. It just seems like it's the same folks, it's the same creators that they have on the same project, rebooting it for whatever reason. But I did not get Wanda and Vision, so this will be the last of this run, and then we'll be done with Scarlet Witch for a while. But anyways, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And I think this... I didn't flip over to the cover real quick. But I think this cover is awesome. So you can see it in League. It came out on June 12th, 2024. So quite literally a year ago, almost to the date here. I'm recording this on Thursday. It'll get posted on Thursday. But this opener here was fine. I don't think it was the greatest thing in the world. I probably was leaning a little bit more towards a 3.5, but the art in it is pretty decent, so I think that's why I led towards 4, and the cliffhanger at the end is pretty good too. Definitely big spoilers in this one, just keep that in mind. But everything that happened between Wanda and Quicksilver has dissolved. That's all behind us. Wanda is now in a time of peace. She's still at the Emporium shop. She still has her assistant Darcy. She actually has another assistant with her as well, as things are getting busier at the shop. Everything seems pretty good, right? All is well in the town that she's in. And of course, that can only last for so long. And then suddenly coming through from a different dimension are these endlings. And they're basically these big beast-looking like things, but they have, their faces are like these succubus. So it's like jaws and mouths with a whole bunch of claws, but like no eyeballs or anything like that. And they're going and attacking the town and the village. So when that happens, the other assistant starts to help out, and a big pod like just lands on him from one of these beasts that are coming out of this dimension. So he looks like he's dead. Darcy's freaking out. Wanda's trying to do the best that she can, but just is getting overwhelmed. And Darcy is like, okay, I don't really know what to do. I'm going to go through the door and try to go through it the reverse way. Remember, there's this door in her shop where random people, entities, beings, whatever, will come through the door when their last hope is the Scarlet Witch to be able to help them out. And it's been like an adventure of the week type of book. Now Darcy wants to go through the opposite and see who can help. So she goes through, and sure enough, she lands in Pietro's bedroom, and he's with some woman, and she's like, Pietro, you gotta help me, right? Quicksilver. So, all right, and so Quicksilver comes to help, and when it helps, Scarlet Witch then faces off against this other witch from a different dimension, and at first, Wanda's like, well, you know, I'm the Scarlet Witch, this is gonna be a piece of cake, and it seems like it's gonna be, but then it's not. Then she gets overpowered, and then when Darcy and Quicksilver show up, Wanda is like vaporized and nowhere to be seen and presumed to be dead. And that's the cliffhanger, which is pretty dope. So yeah, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4. Let's flip into some of this artwork here, shall we? And again, dope cover, right? So Wanda, just with all the red that's going on here, and her like pointing, doing some spell. For the audio listeners, obviously you can see it for the video. This is cover A that I ended up picking up here. But yeah, a lot of the beginning here is just everything being fine, everything's okay in the shop, and everyone's hanging out. Then we get to the endlings showing up, Wanda doing her thing and turning into the Scarlet Witch. You can see what I meant by these kind of flying beast-looking things with the talons and claws and like a succubus, like sucking thing that can just eat off your flesh. And then the fight is kind of on here. We have the assistant, and he seems like he's going to be a badass and be able to help out, but boom, he's killed pretty quickly, as you can see there. And then we have Wanda doing the best that she can, but getting overwhelmed. And this is when Darcy is then pulled into, still a couple more scenes with Wanda. It's actually a pretty good splash, like this big energy shield going around her, looking very Dragon Ball Z, which looks dope. And then still trying to fight this thing off, going into like, I don't know, Super Saiyan version of Wanda. Here's the Pietro stuff where all that happens and takes place. And they go and they show up. This is the witch that shows up and starts fighting against Wanda. And suddenly Wanda gets this huge blast. Quicksilver, Darcy, they just see Wanda completely eviscerated and vaporized by this blast. So we'll see. That's pretty threatening, pretty scary. I don't know how we're going to get through all this, and I'm sure she was sent to some other dimension. She'll have to fight her way back and do her whole thing as these comics end up going, but who knows? Maybe they'll swerve me. You never know. So again, that's Scarlet Witch number 1. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well. Then next we have Batman the Brave and the Bold, number 11. This one I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. I was at first thinking this might be the first Brave and the Bold that ends up getting a 4.5, but it was not. So at first, the first couple of books were like really good inside of it. Remember, this is an anthology. You'll have anywhere from like 4 to 5 books, just kind of depends. Short stories pulled together. Some of them have multiple parts that are spread out through multiple issues. Others are just literally a short story, couple pages, and that's it. This one had 5. And the first couple were dope, and then the last 2 were bad, so it all came out in the wash, ended up giving it a 4. So, reminder for this one, I have to look up my notes because it's just too many books or too many stories within one singular book to try to remember. So, Brave and the Bold. This one had 5. We had Batman Mother's Day, we had The Sweet Science, we had Artemis, and we had Private Stein, and lastly, The Crown of the 12 Tales. So, those are the 5 books that you have here. First one. Batman's Mother's Day. This is a part 2. Basically, Batman had dropped off a kid to an orphanage. A year later, he goes to the orphanage and he starts dating the woman there. Ends up at a ball. There's this vampire that shows up, chases after the vampire. Vampire seems to have gotten away. When he comes back to the ball, he sees this like super hot supermodel that's like this big influencer was attacked. Tries to help her to her car. Paparazzi sees, so the girl he was dating like kind of screwed all that up. Then goes back to the orphanage and sees either the girl that she dropped off or it was like someone else has become his Robin, and they know that there's a vampire there, and like, hey, maybe this is the vampire that went crazy, can you investigate it? And then sure enough, she investigates, goes into his room and sees the vampire has like actually gone crazy. So we immediately pick up from there. Robin, hails to Batman, hey, I have him, he has gone crazy and we gotta go chase after him. So that's what they do, and as they're going, the bat vampire thing ends up going to a church, and then there's a whole swarm of them. So now they're like, crap, we really don't know who actually attacked at this ball because there's multiple of them. And Batman's like, okay, let's just go ahead and retreat for now, and then try to figure out what exactly we're going to do from here. And so from there, what he decides to do is to check on Anastasia. And the biggest thing he wants to check on is to see if she was bitten. Because if you have multiple of these bat things flying out there, maybe she's one of them, right? And that's just going to be another clue. So he goes and checks it out. The place is kind of weird because it's all dark and she's having some sort of party. But he goes in and he sees on her neck that she's fine. And she says that she's fine. But he has his guard down. And because he has his guard down, she like gets super close to him. And it turns out she was bitten and she bites him. So now he's like starting to turn and everyone in there is actually a vampire. And so he's fighting it because he's Bruce Wayne, he's Batman, and he falls out of the window, and then he stumbles and hails a cab as he's like all turning. Cab then races and takes him to a doctor that was featured in the first issue that has like some sort of antidote, explains what's going on as best as he can as he's like borderline foaming at the mouth. And when he explains everything, Doc's like, okay, I'm going to give you this thing. It may work, it may not. And it seems like it didn't. Batman then like leaves, and the first girl that he was dating shows up at her house, but you can see his eyes are like all vampire-y. He's got blood all over, and it looks like he's going to do something evil. So interesting, cool. I like where that's going. That's the first short story in this book. The next one, The Sweet Science. Interesting storyline here. We have a boy. This is a Western time, like the old, cowboy Western thing. They're in a saloon. He's playing some cards. Kid got caught cheating. He gets into the fight with the folks, and rather than get into a fight, the owner of the bar shows up and is like, hey, I have this bare knuckle fight. The person that's supposed to come isn't able to get in. You two seem like you want to fight. I'll have you guys fight, and if you win, the guy who, boy, really, like teenager, who is cheating, like, you're free to go, and what I would owe you in paying you would clear the debt, and then the other guy, you can just get into the fight, and we can see how this goes. So they decide to get into agree that they're going to fight for money and for entertainment, but then we find out why the boy is actually there. So he's trying to find his sister. His sister is like a prostitute at this saloon and being forced into it, and so he's trying to get her out. And so he talks to her, and they do this all on the low without anyone realizing who he is and the relation. And they decide basically a plan of what they're going to do next day. And how they did that is he's like, oh, have a girl for the night. So he does, and it's her. And obviously, they don't do anything. They just come up with a plan. And the other guy, he has a woman, but he was up all night, completely hungover, and all screwed up. So they had the fight, and the one big guy is like kind of, not Goliath's size in comparison to David, but like he's a big dude, but he's all screwed up and hungover. And so the boy, he goes to fight, and at first he has an advantage, but as the fight goes on, the other guy starts to recover a little bit, and the kid's like taking a beating, but the kid's like super resilient, and he's like, I can outlast him towards the end. And sure enough, he does. And there's like this wood furnace that's all set up, and he goes up and slams the guy's head into the furnace, and like obviously he dies, and he looks like the kid is going to win, which is awesome. But when that all takes place, the head of the saloon is like, hey, that's great that you won, but we have another fight coming up, and now you're going to just keep doing this again and again and again, because I have a gun and you don't. So he basically just continues to goad him. He's like, no, you're not going to shoot me. There's no way you would shoot me. And then sure enough, he goes up and he pulls the trigger. But they sabotage the gun. There was something in there that they put in, and the gun blew up in his face, killing him as well. So the kid, his sister, they get away, and they're good to go. Cool little story, and it just one shot, and that's it. I was like, that did not expect that to be in this book. I enjoyed that. Thought it was pretty cool. Then the next book here is, story is Artemis, The Poison Within. It's the second part. The last issue had the first part. It was about Artemis walking through the desert, self-loathing about something, to where she had this burden of like always constantly having to do the right thing, whether or not it's actually something that she believes in. It's just like this burden to always be doing that, and is just having a pity party basically. So she sets up like camp in the desert. She gets bitten by a snake, and it sends her on this like crazy poisonous trip. And her horse like starts talking to her, and the horse basically has a therapy session with her, and it's like, hey, I understand shit's tough, but pressure is privilege, or is a privilege. And like, yes, you have all these terrible things, but look of all the wonderful things that have come out of it. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, type of thing. Nice swift kick in the butt, and trying to get her back into the game. So that was a cool book, or cool story. I like that. That was pretty good. Then we have two more, and these next two like genuinely sucked. Those first three was like 4.5. Like, there's no way these last two could completely royally screw it up, and they did. So the next one here, you had Private Stein. And so Private Stein, it's about this prisoner of war who's been in all these different wars, like Vietnam, World War II, and it's like this living legend that shows up at where everything seems like it's doom and gloom. The enemy has you beat, and there's nowhere you can go. It doesn't look like anyone's going to come to rescue you, and suddenly he comes out of nowhere and just starts like shooting everyone, breaks out, and everyone breaks out. So it's like the legend of this guy. It was weird. I don't really know why they came up with this or what it's all about. I wasn't a big fan. And then lastly is the Crown of 12 Tails, and the best thing I can describe it is just like one quick couple pages of going after the rat catcher, and Batman stops him. And both of them are so disappointing. I was like, man, if it was just those books alone, the thing would have been a 3. But even out with the first 3, I was like, we come up with a 4. So that's what I ended up going with. I can understand why Lee came up with a 3.7, because those two in particular are just so bad. And if you didn't jive with any of the first 3, I get it. I truly do. So those are the books there. Again, with Brave and the Bold, it's all said and done. At this stage of the game, I would have dropped it. This journey in my comic book hobby collection, whatever you want to call it. But it's all done and complete. So there's 20 of these, so we'll get through them eventually. This one came out back in March of 24. Go ahead and go through the art a little bit, show off some of that. So we have the first part here with all these vampires, and Bruce is where he turns, gets the antidote, and then sure enough, shows up, still looking very vampire-y. Then the next one here is the Western, where we have the boy and the bare knuckle fight, and they're going after each other, and he's withstanding it and holding his own and everything. And then towards the end, they're barely able to escape. Then we have Artemis, the poison. It's doing its thing, just having the conversation with her horse, who's trying to remind her who the F she is, and stop the pity party, basically. So that is Artemis, and the art on that one's actually pretty good. I did enjoy that one a lot. And then we go into the Prisoner of War stuff, and this was just kind of like violent and gruesome and bloody, and like bullets and everything flying everywhere. It's like, who is this guy? He's a living legend, yada yada. And then Batman going after the rat catcher. It always seems like the last one is in black and white, and so that sticks with that theme and that tradition, going after them, the rat catcher, which he does stop in the end. So that's Batman Brave and the Bold. Honestly, for all the books, I don't recommend it at this point, but I like reading it, I like talking about it, so that's what I end up doing. But yeah, again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. Up next, we have Batman 154. And I have a feeling I gave it a 4, and I sure did. And Lee gave it a 3.9. I enjoy where we're going on this part of the journey of Batman. It's a different change of pace, even from the first issue, though. So the first issue of this part, this is like part 2 of it. So 153 was actually the first part. It was more Bruce focused. And this, we actually have like a good mix between Bruce and Batman in here. But basically, and let me just pull back up my notes here and make sure, because I read this one earlier in the week. Basically, yeah, that's what happened. The mayor is dead of this universe, this time, and in this frame. And they're trying to figure out who did it. And so the leads suspects are Nigma, and Nigma has this big old kind of like AI corporation that he's trying to sell and merge so he can have some legitimate money. And the other are the Court of Owls. And it seems like the Court of Owls are actually backing Nigma's investment, and so they're trying to find a buyer as well. So Batman knows that these are like the lead suspects, so he shows up and he interrogates them. It's a new head of Court of Owls, and Batman is dealing with. And they're like, yeah, it's not me. I didn't do it. If it was me, you would have never even guessed that it would be me in the first place, and it would be so loud. And so Batman takes that into consideration. He's like, okay, maybe it wasn't. And then we start to investigate the mayor's wife a little bit. Find out that the mayor's wife is actually having an affair. And so as Batman and Gordon are looking in the house, that's where Batman finds that out. And when he does, Gordon pulls out a gun on Batman. And he's like starting stammering and can't like come up with a sentence, and it seems like he's going insane. And it's like, oh my gosh, Gordon, did you have an affair, with the wife? And that's the cliffhanger that we're left up on, of like Batman or Gordon pulling out a gun on Batman. Like, holy shit. So pretty nuts. Then there's a B plot here, which is more the Bruce side of things. You know, obviously he's got Wayne Corporation, but there's a illegitimate brother who has now come to light and has a claim apparently to Wayne Enterprises, and they're just doing like a lot of the research, and they're like, yep, you know, he was born from this lady who was a nurse at the hospital that Mr. Wayne used to work at. So a lot of it ties together, and they're just trying to figure out, is it legit, is it not, and does this guy also now have a claim to, you know, the gold that is, and the company that is Wayne Enterprises. So TBD there. So yeah, decent book. I mean, at this point, Batman is so much further ahead. We're at like 160 something. This book came back out in November 6th. So I would say, you know, just catch up with whatever's going on right now. But I've been enjoying it, and I'm thinking once we get past Hush, I'll probably drop Batman, just because I've read it enough, and I don't need to continue to go on with it. There's no end in sight of when this would actually wrap up, and so I'm trying to, you know, just be a little bit more selective on a lot of these things, right? So that's where I'm at on that. Let's go into the art for this one. I thought really good. I thought a step up, actually, from what the art has been traditionally. You know, standard DC. Nothing over the top, but at the same time, I think the degree of detail on the fight scenes, but even just like the simple dialogue scenes, right? Like in an office space, but like just look at the lines within, you know, the like the lights on the ceilings and things like that. And even that, which seems so simplistic, but it's pretty good here. Good detail that you have here on just like the folks at the street level, Bruce like looking out into the street. So I just think it was a step up overall, which is good. So yeah, that is Batman 154. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. Then we have Outsiders number 9. This one's about to wrap up here. I gave this one a 4. Lee actually gave it a 3.6. And I feel like Lee has been down on this one while I've been a little bit higher. Play a lot into the meta here of like what is actually happening, breaking the fourth wall. And we do some more of that in this issue too. So we have Lucius, we have Drummer, and Lucas Fox. And they end up going to Cannon Island. So Cannon, like, you know, part of the actual story in the island has an enormous cannon like firing off into the distance. And so when they get there, at first Fox is like, okay, like what is this all about? And Drummer's like, well, we got to be careful, there's going to be some locals here that we have to deal with. And sure enough, there are some locals, and they do have to deal with them. They get captured at first, but then they make their escape, and they basically, on this Cannon Island, they find out the purpose of it there is to destroy these universes, and the universes actually being the comics themselves. And this is like the group of people that reset the entities or reset the events of universes. And so Fox is like, well, I don't want you to reset my universe, right? We still have living to and loved ones back home. And so he hails in his people from our existing universe, and to basically have their guns pointed at the cannon and at the locals of like, you're not going to fire, otherwise we're going to fire on you. And so that keeps them at bay for now. And so they head back to, kind of the main DC universe, but they have to figure out what exactly are they going to do. So that's like the cliffhanger of, and there's only 2 issues left, so they got to move pretty quickly here, right? So it's cool to play with these concepts and these ideas of like the comic blowing itself up within and like the universe being blown up within. I enjoy that, but I can understand people are like, the hell's going on? This is so confusing and so bizarre and weird, and you have to think outside the box as you're reading through it. So yeah, but it's all said and done at this point. You'd probably just have to get the trade. The fact that he had Cannon Island I found pretty funny and hilarious. So here's like the full spread that you see on it. So a literal cannon playing into like the canon of the DC universe. Hilarious. So yeah, the art here has always been phenomenal, and that kind of continues throughout here as they are first captured, and then they are freed here by one of these locals. And like, look at this. Like, how do you even begin to draw some of this stuff, right? Like, look at the intricate detail going through and basically explaining the canon and the life cycle of these universes from birth to conflict and so on and so forth. And so they basically explain it to Fox before they're able then to break out. And as they do, that's where they get kind of guns drawn from Fox's thing onto the canon itself, and they're able to hold them all at bay. So yeah, that is Outsiders number 9. Again, I gave that a 4. Lee gave it a 3.6. And then we have 5 more here. So we have Giant Size X-Men number 1. Now, I know League was way down on this one, but I really wasn't that down. Yeah, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.3. So they just were not feeling this one at all. And I get it. I think these giant sizes at first, I thought they were just one-shots, but they're not. There is some story behind them as well. So I think this is the start, though, of this X-Men one. So we have Miss Marvel, Kamala, who is dropped into the past in this universe. And so Kamala knows everyone. Miss Marvel knows all these people, but none of them know her. And none of them know that she's a mutant. And in actual, I believe, 616, she finds out she's a mutant like way later and one of the newer mutants. So she's basically trying to explain and talk through her whole way because she's seen all this play out before in a different way and has to convince Cyclops and Wolverine and everyone else, here's how this is going to work. But who they're fighting right now is a version of Legion who came from the distant future. And, Legion is Xavier's son. And they basically are able to stop him pretty easily, but it makes a whole big to-do. They go all the way out to Krakoa, and they haven't even discovered Krakoa. That's how far in the past that this is. But once they do, then, of course, Miss Marvel basically knows what to do. She can even communicate with Krakoa, and they're able to stop Legion altogether pretty quickly. But then randomly Phoenix shows up, and this is when Phoenix is bad, and it looks like they're going to have to fight off against Phoenix next. So that is basically the premise. Let me just double check my notes, see if there's anything else that I missed there. I'm not going to continue on reading some of the other stuff, and this actually came out pretty recently. It came out May 28th. So it was technically a backlog, and I was thinking, should I just have it towards the end? But the fact that it is a giant size, it's actually not as far. It's not really connected, I should say, with some of the other stuff that I had in the backlog. So it's you can go ahead and just get around to it when we get around to it, which is fine. So yeah, I think that's it. Let's flip over to the art now. It's a giant size, so it is a larger issue. And also what makes it giant size, too, let's see if I can find that. You have spreads that are flipped. Let's see if I can find it. But yeah, the art. Look at the art here. Pretty nuts. That's some stuff from Absolute Martian Manhunter, which is very reminiscent. So this is when Kamala ends up in the past. And she meets up with all of them, and Xavier was yep, she can be part of the team, she'll go ahead and help out, and boom, this is what I was talking about. So where it's flipped on the orientation is another big piece of why it's called giant size as well. So you have a number of different spreads that are like this throughout the book. Nice little, kind of the streak of the jet on top of the panels as well. That looks pretty cool there. And then, yeah, here we go. So we have Legion, and they're all fighting off against Legion, who's coming from the future. Let's see if we can there's Krakoa. And then look at this one, right? How dope is that? So from an art perspective, the book's insane. I'll give it that. But from a story perspective, maybe not so much. And I guess League didn't really feel that way about it, because usually on art, they're giving it even more. You have the psychedelic colors, very similar to Absolute Martian Manhunter in there as well. Then when do we get Phoenix? Here's where Phoenix shows up, and so you get continuation from there. The last thing is this book. That's what I was forgetting about. You also get this small part where it's Xavier way in the past. He runs into this one mutant, and her powers are interesting. They basically become whoever she's around, she amplifies those powers, and she's better than them. So if she's around Wolverine, right, and whose Wolverine's abilities are to heal incredibly quickly, she's going to heal even faster. If she's around Xavier, she becomes a telepath, but she becomes an even more powerful telepath than Xavier. So you run into this situation where Xavier meets her, and it's the first time he's met her, and she knows everything about him. And he's like, interesting, I haven't met you. And this is good, Xavier. So it's like, I haven't read your mind or anything like that. And it slowly starts to be revealed of like, I know who you are and I know who your power, and these are my powers. So Xavier's like, oh crap, like this is not going to end well. I got to put up like defenses. And as soon as he tries to do that, she's already like taken over his mind, because whatever level he's at, she's automatically a level higher. So she goes up against Storm, she's automatically a level higher than Storm. Goes up against and is near Magneto, already a level higher than Magneto. Pretty interesting powers. So we'll see what all that ends up being. I'm actually kind of excited because I like that idea a lot. So yeah, that is Giant Size X-Men, and that whole piece at the end that I described is technically separate from the actual book. But again, I gave it a 4, Lee gave it a 3.9. I enjoyed it. Just pick it up for the art alone. Now let's see, is the price a lot more? $4.99. That's actually about what I'd expect there. So that's nothing too ridiculous for Giant X-Men number 1. Then we have Free Planet number 2, which is such a bummer, man. Oh my goodness. So I gave it a 3. Lee gave it a 3.8, which I was shocked by. A 3.8? Getting a sip of coffee there. Way too high. Way too high. Granted, this is slightly better, but in the end, it's just, I don't understand what's going on here. It's just not good, guys. It's just not a good book. Way too much exposition, which was the issue with number 1, or the problem with the first issue, however you want me to say it. It continues. The woes continue in this. At least here you have somewhat of a plot. So you have this planet. It's the only one that wants to be free from this huge empire. And with that comes a whole bunch of political bullshit. They assigned, I think it was 14 people, all with various different backgrounds, to lead this free planet. But they're realizing that they're missing a little oomph to them. So what they decide to do is get a... Oh, I'm the wrong one. They decided to get a... former terrorist of the Empire and have him part of the free planet. And everyone's like, no, we don't want that. That's insane. And so they decide that they're going to do it anyways. And they take him and they're trying to steal some stuff for whatever reason from the Empire. So they go ahead and they do it, and it looks like they're going to steal something. But the terrorist guy runs into some of his old crew. And he's like, hey, I'm not with you guys anymore. I'm kind of now with the Free Planet folks, and it is what it is. And he kills them, like, right in front of the Free Planet people. And I'm like, I don't think you had to do that. You could have probably handled this a little bit differently. But that's what he does. And then they are about to escape, but they get found out, and now they're going to end up at some different planet to basically fight their way out or whatever. I dropped this book, and I'm glad that I did. This is hopefully the last one, because I've mentioned before, the shop will then give you one more book on top of it. I think I covered it in time to where I only have these first 2. I do not recommend it. It's not a good book. It's better for a long-form novel, right? If you're going to read Dune, like, it's that dense, but they try to pack that in 30 pages, you know? It's just not the right medium for what they're setting up here. So, yeah, that's Free Planet number 2. I gave it a 3. League somehow, some way gave it a 3.8. I think it was a 3.6 before, but it slowly worked its way up. That was with 20 reviews. Now it's at 29 reviews. So yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm struggling here with the sniffles. So I do apologize if that's bothering you. I get it. If you already had to turn it off, it's like that. It's just too much. But we're going to continue to persevere here with 3 more books. We have Spider-Man Miles Morales, number 17. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And this book here is the start of a new arc in Miles Morales. Gang Wars just ended. I like this book a lot. Now the Gang Wars has ended, and the city is happy with what Spider-Man and all the New York heroes did. the ban on heroes has been lifted. So Miles has been part of what's called the Cape Killers under Agent Gao as a mandate to have supervision over these vigilante superheroes. That's no longer the case. So now Gao is basically a woman without a country, and she doesn't have, she's getting shoved out, she doesn't have her squad anymore, and she's trying to figure out what the hell is she going to do. Argues with Luke Cage, who's the mayor. He's like, nope, this is the mandate. You are being reassigned. Gal doesn't accept that, and she's pissed. Rabble, who's like the main villain throughout all of this, she's going a little crazy as well. And her powers are kind of betraying her, similar to how Miles' spider senses have been betraying him. And she doesn't have control over technology like she used to. So she's freaking out as well. Miles, trying to get with Misty, Colleen, Starling, and Swift, his twin, or clone of him or whatever, and trying to be proactive about going after superheroes. And you can see how that is going to be problematic, because then you get into like Big Brother free will type stuff. But he's like, we should go after Rabble. It's not completely done yet. We know that she now has some involvement with Madame Mask, and they're thinking about it, and they're like, okay, yeah, we think that's a good idea. So that all takes place. Then at the very end, we see where Gao went. She decided to go towards Rabble and is looking to recruit Rabble and start up her own team and actually become a villain. I was like, oh shit, 16 issues we've been dealing with all this stuff, and now these two are teaming up together as a villain duo. Holy shit. So that seems awesome. I thought it was really, really cool. The lead up to that was okay, so fine, but when that reveal came up at the end, I was like, I like where we're going a lot. This is going to be dope for sure. So yeah, Miles Morales, number 17. Good stuff. I probably could have gone 4.5 and I would have been fine, but let's just say I was leaning between the two, between 4 and 4.5. The art here is very reminiscent of Miles in particular, so it's a lot more action focused and like way more zoomed in. So here's like a good example of the spread. That's like some very, very minor villain that doesn't even matter towards the story. And they're basically trying to decide here, like, let's try to go after Rabble. We have Gao talking to Luke Cage, her trying to figure out her whole thing. Miles now trying to meet up with everyone and convince them, like, well, let's be proactive about this stuff now that we actually can take a beat. And then Gao at the end here confronting Rabble, which is so dope. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, that's Miles, number 17. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well. Second to last one here is going to be Phoenix, number 6. So this one, I gave it a 4, and Lee gave it a 3.9. Yeah, I'd say it's between a 4 and a 3.5, so I agree with that. Where we're at now is Phoenix has randomly teamed up with Nova, which we didn't know. So Nova, part of like the Nova, I don't know, Green Lantern equivalent for the Marvel Universe. And Thanos is chasing after Phoenix. So Pericus is like kind of our main big bad. He's a god that Phoenix inadvertently freed. When Phoenix freed, Pericus destroyed this like alien planet and left one survivor, made her his disciple basically, and somehow convinced the Galactic Council that Phoenix is still bad because she was bad years and years ago, and I think it's that version of Phoenix that has come back. And they're now at the point of where they're spreading all this fear and hatred towards Phoenix throughout the galaxy and the universe. So anywhere Phoenix goes, she's already hated and pursued, except Nova, for whatever reason, is on her side. And word gets back to Thanos and Pericus that Nova is with her, and they're like, okay, let's use this to our advantage. Somehow Thanos, I don't know how, corrupts Nova into thinking that he's being attacked by Phoenix and needs to defend himself. So Phoenix goes and defends herself. She snaps Nova out of it pretty quickly, but Phoenix has started to realize, I'm way outgunned and outnumbered. Like, yes, I am the Phoenix, which is like an Omega level threat beyond, but I can't go after the entire Galactic Council, Thanos, and also have to watch my back on people that are supposed to have my back as well. And then sure enough, at the very end of the book, you have a cliffhanger of reinforcements coming to help her out. It's going to be Captain Marvel, it's going to be Rocket Raccoon, and I think I wrote the note, but I just can't remember who else is the other person. and Surf, who's going to be helping out Phoenix going after Thanos now, which is pretty cool. So for this book, on the art side of things, the art is excellent. I've been enjoying the art in Phoenix a lot, but I did stop Phoenix, and the reason I stopped Phoenix is just because I'm not over the moon on the story. The story's good, but I don't think it's like the second coming or anything. It's fine, it's good, it's serviceable, and all that, but if I just stop it now, I think that'll be totally fine. Phoenix, they're talking to Scott, Cyclops. This is where Nova's turned, and Phoenix is like, man, I just really need help here to be able to fight everything off that's going on. And then this is where Ms. Marvel, Surf, and Rocket Raccoon come to join in the fight against Mr. Thanos here that you have on the front. So again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. I think you got a pretty dope cover here too, right? With Thanos right hand on top of Phoenix as well. That looks pretty cool. So with that, go ahead and get to the last one here, which is One Bad Day Catwoman. We're towards the end here. I think we only have 2 more, Clayface and Ra's al Ghul after this. So this one I gave a 3.5. Lee gave it a 4.1. I only gave it a 3.5 because of the end. That's where I thought this book struggled. But overall, it was fine. And then when I think about, like, these are all just one stories, not necessarily one day, but just a singular story that takes place in, like, a longer form book. So the page count on these are, 64. So basically the span of 2 issues is one book. We have Catwoman here, and she is going after a family heirloom. And it is a brooch that her mother had to sell way back when she was a kid just to try to make rent. So she goes to sell it. It's his family heirloom that's been in the family for a while. Goes to a pawn shop. Pawn shop basically says, like, yeah, it's fake. I can only give you a couple $100. She's like, oh my gosh, I thought this was worth, like, way more than that, but I'll take it. Catwoman now is, of course, a cat burglar, right? So she is like, you know what? I'm going to do something for me. Because it turns out that brooch is actually worth a shit ton of money. It's worth, like, tens of thousands of dollars, if not more. And either the pawn, they weren't very clear whether or not it's the pawn shop owner didn't know what they had, or if he actually tried to scam her. But they know it came out of a pawn shop. She was like, it has to be my mother's brooch. And she goes, cases the place. She goes in and pretends to be one of the rich people that are going to be bidding on it at auction. And she runs into this old lady. And this old lady, like, it's like, oh, you have a magnificent eye looking in on this, and you can easily tell, like, this is foreshadowing something here. And they're like, yeah, you know, it's worth X amount. And she's like, okay, that's cool. And it's like, I'll look to see you, you know, later when the auction takes place. And then so Catwoman, of course, springs in action. She goes ahead to steal it, and how she does it is she turns into one of the waitstaff. And then she ends up stumbling into the room where they have everything staged right before it goes on to stage for auction, drops a tray of food, and then knocks over the brooch, you know, picks it up, then walks off, and then, of course, is able to do it that way. So she goes, she runs off, and as she she escapes, and for the most part, it seems like she got away. But then she comes to find out that brooch, when she goes to sell it on the black market, is actually fake. She's like, what the hell? How's that even possible? Well, it turns out that woman that she was talking to was, like, much older, switched them out. So it was a real one, but then she switched it out with a fake one that Catwoman stole, and then the other woman has the real one. So Catwoman goes to confront her and chase her down, and she's basically like, you're not the only cat burglar out here. I'm going to be out here as well, setting up that there's, like, some other burglar that Catwoman needs to be aware of moving forward. And then at that point, I was like, boo. 2 thumbs down. I was like, you had me. That was cool. It's fake. It's real. It's fake. It's real. It's fake. Whatever. But then when you get to the point of, like, yeah, now there's going to be, like, this older Catwoman burglar, Meow Miss or something ridiculous, whatever it's going to be. I was like, you know what? Nah. 3.5 for me. So that's the story. That's the premise. It was cool up to that point. You can see the brooch here, right? That's what she was going after. The art itself is fine. I don't think anything crazy. I would say fine. because a lot of it was just kind of standard paneling, none of the overlapping stuff that I like personally, and would have preferred. But yeah, you can see some of the examples that you have here as well. So yeah, that is Batman One Bad Day, Catwoman number 1. I gave it a 3.5. We gave it a 4.1. So with that, let's go ahead and recap here everything that we reviewed so you can see it top to bottom, and we could talk through it for the audio listeners as well. Starting off with the first one was X-Men number 8, then the Uncanny X-Men number 7, Scarlet Witch number 1, Batman the Brave and the Bold number 11, Batman 154, Outsiders number 9, Giant Size X-Men number 1, Free Planet number 2, Miles Morales Spider-Man number 17, Phoenix number 6, and then of course Batman One Bad Day Catwoman number 1. So I appreciate you guys tuning into this one. I'm sorry, I'm just struggling with the I don't know if it's allergies or just truly under the weather or whatever it is. But hopefully that'll be all cleared up by the time we get to Saturday. I'll be picking up the actual books on Thursday. It's actually just me and the boys. The wife went out to a little girls' trip. So, but the boys, even though it's Juneteenth, camp is still in session. I'm off, which is great because I could do all the errands and then hopefully get ahead on reading some books, which would be nice. Probably watch some wrestling, the whole 9. But yeah, we'll make sure that we have a Saturday issue as well. Review 10 books on that front. So with that, we'll go ahead and close it out. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. All the socials and everything, it's all in the description. You'll see that in the YouTube side, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you happen to be catching this. Much appreciated. And I will see you guys in the next one.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.